Hello guys, welcome to C#.NET online training video series. Today we are going to discuss abstract class and abstract methods interview questions and answers, right? This is part 2 of abstract class and abstract method. In our part 1 we have discussed the concept abstract class and abstract method. We have discussed what are abstract class, what are abstract method, how to create abstract class, abstract method, how to consume the abstract method, right? I mean how to create child class and how to implement the abstract method of parent class. All these things we have discussed in our last video. Today, what I are going to discuss, we are going to discuss the most frequently asked interview questions related to abstract class and abstract method. If you are attending any interview, then you might face this question in the interviews, right? So let us discuss the top 10 interview questions related to abstract class and abstract method. The first question is, what is an abstract class? Let us first read the definition, then I will explain you the concept. A class that is declared by using the keyword abstract is called abstract class. You can see this is ABS parent class. This class is created by using the keyword abstract. So we can say this is an abstract class. An abstract class is a partially implemented class used for implementing some of the operations of an object which are common for all next levels of classes, that is all child classes, and the remaining abstract method to be implemented by the child classes. So it contains both abstract method and concrete methods, right, including variable properties and indexers. Now if you come to this place, right, so you can see, okay, let me minimize. So what I'm doing, I'm creating one abstract class. You can see in this abstract class, I'm creating some of the method with implementation, and I'm creating some of the method without implementation. So first point is abstract class is a partially implemented class having some of the method with implementation and some of the method without implementation. Now, if you look at this, an abstract class is a partially implemented class used for implementing some of the operations of an object. Whenever I'm saying some of the operations of an object means some of the method of an object which are common for all next level subclasses, right? Now, this abstract parent class, right, having two child classes. Let's say this is child class 1 and this is child class 2, right? Now, this child class 1 and child class 2 having these two method also. And this method implementation is going to be common, is going to be same for child class 1 or child class 2. If you are creating an object of this child class 1 and if you call this add method, this method body is going to be executed. If you are creating an instance of child class 2 and if you are calling the add method, then the same method body is going to be executed. That means this method implementation is same for all the next level subclasses, right? This is the point that we have mentioned, right? And the remaining abstract method to be implemented by the child classes, right? Now, this is a partial class, means it can have some abstract method, and then this abstract method to be implemented by the child classes in their own way. That means this child class implementation is going to be different for this small and deep method, and this child class implementation also going to be different for this small and deep method, right? So abstract class means it's a partial implementation class which contains both abstract method as well as non-abstract method. This is what abstract class, right? Now, what is abstract method? Let us first read the definition, then I will explain you the concept. A method that doesn't have a body is called an abstract method, right? It is declared with the modifier abstract. It contains only a declaration and a signature and doesn't contain the implementation or body or the definition of the method. An abstract method should be terminated with a semicolon. Overriding an abstract method is mandatory. You can see this method here. This method, a method that doesn't have a body. See, you can see this method doesn't have a body, right? And it is declared with the modifier abstract. And you can see this method is declared with the modifier abstract. It contains only a declaration and a signature, right? This is nothing but the method prototype, you can say. Method declaration part, you can say. The method signature part, you can say. Doesn't contain the implementation body or a definition. This open curly braces and close curly braces is not there. This method is terminated with a semicolon, right? Overriding this method is mandatory. If you look at this example, this is the same abstract method signature. This method is ended with a semicolon. This method doesn't have any implementation. This method is created with the keyword abstract, and overriding this method inside the child class is mandatory. Now, this is one child class of this class, right? The child class have to provide implementation to these two methods. This is small method implementation and this is deep method implementation. And while providing the implementation, it is mandatory to override. Use the override keyword. That means we are overriding these two methods. We are overriding these two methods inside the child classes. So this is the overriding of small and deep method of absolute abstract parent class. And this is overriding of small and deep method of absolute parent class in another child class. This is what abstract method. Why should the method have an abstract keyword if it doesn't have a body in the C#? Let's read the definition. In a class, we are allowed only to define a method with the body. Since we are changing its default behavior, which means removing its body, it must have the abstract keyword in its prototype. If you coming to this example, right? This is the method. As of now, we are using this one, right? We are creating one method. We are providing the body of the method, right? But here we are changing this default behavior. We are changing this default behavior means we are removing the body of the method, right? As we are removing the body, and if you want to remove the body, right? And if you are putting this semicolon, then to differentiate that this is not a normal method, what we need to do, we need to use the keyword abstract, which specifically tells the compiler that this is just a method prototype. This method doesn't have any body. The body is going to be provided by the child classes. This method signature, and you can see this is going to be shared, right? Abstract keyword ended with a semicolon, right? So this is how this is the reason why abstract keyword is used whenever you are not providing the implementation. When should a class be declared as abstract? Okay, so in my personal experience, I use the abstract class in 3 different scenarios, right? Let us discuss what are the scenarios. Already we have discussed this case one. Case one means if your class having any abstract method, then you need to declare the class as abstract, right? You can consider this. So this method is declared as abstract. As this method is declared as abstract, as you declare this method as abstract, then it is mandatory to use the keyword abstract to the class, right? So whenever your class contains any abstract method, then it is mandatory to declare the class as abstract. You can see I'm declaring this method as abstract. So, sorry, I'm declaring this class as abstract. This is one of the scenario. If your class contains any abstract method, then you have to declare the class as abstract. The second scenario is that you have a one abstract class. That abstract class contains n number of abstract methods. And in your child class, right, if you don't want to provide implementation to all the abstract method, rather you want to provide implementation to some of the method and you don't want to provide implementation to some other methods, then also you need to declare the class as abstract, right? In this case, you can see class A having two abstract methods. In class B, we are not providing implementation for both method 1 and method 2. What we are doing, we are just providing implementation for method 1, but we are not providing implementation for method 2. And if this is the scenario, then you need to declare the class B as abstract. Again, the class which is inheriting from class B will take the responsibility to provide implementation for this method 2. This is the second scenario where you can use or where you can declare the class as abstract, right? And the third scenario is, suppose you are having one interface, and inside that interface you can declare any number of methods, right? So whenever you declared any number of method means those methods are going to be by default public and abstract. What it means, now here I'm declaring for void method 1, void method 2. It is not void method 1, it is not void method 2. What is it? It is public abstract void method 1, public abstract void method 2, right? These are nothing but internally abstract method only, right? Now your class, suppose you are creating a class by inheriting from this by implementing this interface, but you are not interested to provide implementation to all the abstract method, right? All the interface method, you want to provide implementation to some of the interface method, while some of the interface method you don't want to provide implementation. Then in that case you need to declare the class as abstract. Not only you need to declare the class as abstract, you need to declare the method signature with public abstract. Suppose you are providing implementation to method 1, that is fine, you can provide implementation. But in this case, you don't want to provide implementation to this method 2, means explicitly you need to declare that method as abstract, public abstract or method 2. So these are the three different scenarios or use cases where you can use abstract class. Now, when to use abstract method in C#. Abstract methods are usually declared. Okay, let us first read the definition, or then we'll understand this concept. Abstract methods are usually declared when two or more subclasses are expected to fulfill a similar role in a different manner. You can also do the same thing using interfaces also. But if you are using abstract class, means we can provide some common functionality, which is going to be same for all the child classes, and this is not possible using inheritance, right? Let me show you the, so this is not inheritance, it's not possible using interface, right? Okay, let me explain. So in this case, what I'm doing, suppose I'm providing some implementation. This method implementation I'm providing to the child class. I'm also providing this two method to be implemented by the child class, right? If at all, you only need to provide abstract method, right? So if this is the scenario, then you can use interface, right? You can use interface and you can declare some of the method, and this method are going to be implemented by the child classes. Now the child class of this class can provide implementation to these two methods. That is fine. That is we can do, but this is not possible. You cannot provide implementation to interface method, right? Inside an interface, you cannot declare some of the method with implementation. That is not possible with interface, right? If you want to provide some common functionality to the child classes, as well as if you want the child classes to provide some implementation to the abstract method, then you cannot use interface, right? Then what you need to use? You need to use abstract class, right? With abstract class, this is possible, right? With abstract class, you can provide some of the implementation, right, which is going to be consumed by the child classes, as well as you need to provide some abstract class, abstract method, so that the child class can provide the implementation in a different manner, right? These two methods can be implemented by child class 1 in their own way, and the same implementation, I mean the child class 2 can also provide the implementation to the above two method in their own way, right? This is what abstract method is all about. What type of member you can define inside an abstract class? You can define all types of member, right? You can see I can declare some static variable, I can declare some non-static variable, I can declare static method, I can declare non-static method, I can declare non-static constructor, I can declare static constructor, as well as I can declare abstract method. So all these things you can define inside an abstract class. Now, will abstract class member be created when a subclass object is created? Absolutely yes. What it means now, whenever you are creating the child class instance, the non-static member of the abstract class is going to be get memory allocation, right? So with the help of a child class instance only, you can consume the non-static member of a abstract class, right? If you are consuming the non-static member of an using the child class object, right? That means what? It means whenever you are creating the child class constructor, child class instance, the child class constructor internally call this abstract class constructor, and that abstract class constructor is going to initialize the non-static member, right? How can we execute static and non-static concrete member of the abstract class? See, as we already discussed, inside an abstract class, we can define both static and a non-static member. We can define static and a non-static class, right? Everything it is possible to define, right? Then how? Right. For example, suppose this is my abstract class. Inside this abstract class, I'm declaring some static method. I'm declaring some non-static method. And if you see this, these two are nothing but a concrete method, means method with the implementation. And this is a abstract method, right? Abstract method means this method is going to be implemented by the child classes. That is fine. So child class implement this abstract method by using the override modifier. Now my question is how I can consume these two members. As these member are non-static, as these member are concrete member, then how I can consume the static and non-static abstract class member, right? If it is a static member, then you can consume directly by using the class name. The same concept what we discussed in static. So it's a static method, you can directly call by using the class. But it is a non-static method. Even though it is a non-static concrete method, you cannot directly consume. You cannot create an instance of this class and call this method. That is not possible. How to consume this means you need to create an instance of the child class. Through the child class instance only, you can consume the non-static concrete method of the abstract class. See, I'm creating an instance of the child class, and using that child class instance only, I can consume the non-static concrete method of the parent class as well as the abstract method, which is defined inside the child class. This is how you can consume the static and non-static method, right? Can we declare an abstract method as static? No. We are not allowed to declare an abstract method as static. Why? If the compiler allows to declare it as static, see the reason is very simple, right? If you declare this abstract method as static, then what it means? It means you can consume this member directly by using the class name without creating an instance, whether this class having any child class or not, that doesn't matter. I can invoke this method by using the class name. If I invoke this method by using the class name, then at runtime the CLR is going to execute the method definition. But do you have any method definition? No, we do not have any method definition. Then what the CLR going to execute? This is the reason why the compiler will give you error if you are using the static keyword with the abstract method. Hence, to restrict calling abstract method, compiler doesn't allow us to declare an abstract method as static. Now, can you declare abstract method as sealed? No, you cannot declare abstract method as sealed. The reason is also very simple. What do we mean by sealed? Sealed means the method is fixed. The method is final. The method cannot be inherited to the child classes. The method cannot be overridden by the child classes, right? If the method cannot be overridden by the child classes, that means the child class cannot override or cannot re-implement this method. And what is the meaning of abstract? Abstract means I'm not providing implementation to this method. The implementation is going to be provided by the child classes. That means the sealed and abstract keyword contracting to each other. Sealed saying method is final. Abstract saying method is not final. Method is going to be implemented by the child classes. As both are contracting with each other, so we cannot use sealed and abstract keyword at the same time. If you are making the method as abstract means you cannot use sealed. And if you are making the method as sealed, then you cannot use the keyword abstract. And if you are not providing the keyword abstract means you need to provide the implementation. That is the thing that you need to understand. You cannot use sealed keyword with the abstract method. Can we declare method as private? Again, the answer is no. Why? Because see, already we discussed in our access specifier that whenever we declare some member as private, then those members are only accessible within the class, right? Within the class. From outside the class, you cannot access those members, even though those members are not inherited to the child classes also, right? If you make this member as private, means this method one will not be inherited to the child classes, right? The child class doesn't know, is there any method called method one? If the child class doesn't know any method with the method name method one, then how he can going to implement the method? He cannot implement the method. Na? This is the reason why you cannot declare the abstract method as private. Abstract method means it is compulsory available to the child classes so that the child class can consume the can provide the implementation to the method. Right? This is the reason why you cannot declare an abstract method as private. Can you declare a concrete class as abstract? Yes, absolutely fine. You can declare a concrete, you can create a method with a, you can create an abstract method with full of concrete members. You can see this is an abstract class. Whether you make this class as abstract or not, that doesn't an issue because this method contains only non-concrete, contains only concrete method. Even though this method concrete contains only concrete members, you can also declare this class as abstract. But if your class contains any, but if your class contains any abstract member, right? If your class contains any abstract member, right, then it is mandatory to provide abstract, right? If your class contains any abstract member, then it is mandatory to provide abstract. See, if I am not providing abstract, then I will get an error, right? It is mandatory. But if your class doesn't contain any abstract method, then it is optional. Whether you declare this class as non-abstract or abstract, that doesn't matter. Then the question is, when should we declare the abstract? Now, if you don't want direct consumption of this class, right? If you don't want to consume this member directly, that means if you want to restrict the class instance creation, then you need to declare the class as abstract. See, I'm unable to create an instance. As I'm unable to create an instance, so I cannot consume this member directly, right? And if you want to access and if you want to consume this member only through child classes, then in that scenario, you need to declare the class as abstract, right? That is what you need to understand. Now, it is one of the important questions that people in the interviewer ask you, what is the difference between abstract methods and method overriding, right? The concept of abstract method is very similar to the concept of a method overriding, right? Let us understand this concept. Suppose I have a class called A, and in this class I have a virtual method called display. You can see this is a class A, and in this class I am declaring one virtual method called a display. Here display is a non-abstract method. It's a virtual method, and this virtual method can be overridden in the child class. Now the child class, if want, then he can override this method. But overriding the virtual method under the child classes is optional. If the child class wants, then he can override the method. If the child class not interested, and if the child class wants to execute the implementation what is provided by the parent class, then he cannot then he might be not overriding the method. So overriding the method, overriding the virtual method under the child class is optional. And whenever we are overriding the virtual method under the child class, then this is called a re-implementation. That means the method implementation is already there in the parent class, and we are re-implementing the method. And re-implementing the method means it is optional because already method is implemented, right? Now let's see. Now let's see the same example using abstract class and abstract method. See, you can say this is the abstract class. So what I'm doing, I'm making the class as abstract and I'm making the method as abstract. So what it is now done, now whenever you are making the class method as abstract, then it is mandatory to provide implementation, right? It is mandatory to provide implementation to the abstract method under the child classes. But in previous case, it is optional. So it is called as the re-implementation, but in this case, it is not called as re-implementation, rather it is called as implementation because this method not implemented inside the class A, right? Not implemented in the base class or not implemented in the abstract class. This is the reason why we are mandatorily, it is mandatory to provide implementation. But in this case, we are re-implementing because the method is already implemented in the parent class. So this is the difference between overriding method and the abstract method. Virtual method means overriding that method in the child class is optional. Abstract method means overriding that method in the child class is mandatory. So the concept of abstract method is nearly similar to the concept of overriding. In method overriding, if the parent class contains any methods declared as virtual, then those methods can be re-implemented under the child class by using the override modifier, and re-implementing or overriding the method is optional. On the other hand, in the case of abstract class and abstract method, if at all the parent class contains any abstract method, then those methods must be implemented in the child class using the same override modifier. And implementing the abstract method under the child class is mandatory. This is the difference between abstract method and the overriding method, right? In the next class or in the next video, what we are going to discuss, I will show you one real-time scenario where you need to use abstract class and abstract methods. Thank you for watching this video.